There's more to imagine when you listen, so let your imagination soar with Audible. Audible has audio titles from every genre that will inspire you to imagine new worlds, possibilities, and ways of thinking. As an Audible member, you get to choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog. Enjoy an exciting reawakening of a beloved classic with the Audible original David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, produced by Academy Award-winning director Sam Mendes, starring Ncuti Gatwa, Helena Bonham Carter, and Theo James. This adaptation breathes new life into a familiar tale. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/imagine or text IMAGINE to 500-500. That's audible.com/imagine or text IMAGINE to 500-500.
Hey, Prime members! Have you heard? You can listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free-podcast. That's amazon.com/ad-free-podcast to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
Welcome back to the weekly walkthrough with Alex and Graham, part of the MSC podcast. I'm Alex. As you see on your screen, Graham is also joining me. Should be another good week. We are previewing Buffalo versus UConn. Graham, welcome back to the show. This looks like it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the what I noticed this week is according to ESPN's S&P Plus, it's Buffalo and UConn are right next to each other, 97 and 98 in the country, according to S&P Plus. So this should be a super close game, a shootout, and an interesting one to watch for MAC fans looking to get some of that last non-conference action before MAC play really gets going.
Yeah, this is going to be the last week of non-conference play up until like the middle of October. Ball State randomly travels to Vanderbilt to take on the SEC squad here in the middle of the season. But yeah, this is it for non-con play before we really get things rolling with the Mid-American Conference. And yeah, the 97-98, that's impressive. I mean, it just sucks for fans that they're not that close geographically.
You're right. Yeah, that's the trying to go from Connecticut to Buffalo or vice versa. In this case, vice versa, going from Buffalo to Connecticut. This game is in East Hartford. This on Saturday. It's a noon kickoff on CBS Sports Network, which I don't know about you. I don't get CBS Sports Network.
I don't get it either. Why did they name it CBS? Oh, you meant actually get it from a provider. I don't do that either.
That's yikes. Don't quit your day job. That's rough. That's rough. The Bulls are 3-1. Buffalo Bulls 3-1 heading into this matchup against the UConn Huskies. This matchup opened at 3.5 in favor of UConn. Now it's down to minus 5.5. All still in favor of the Huskies. And that's, I think we can chalk that up to kind of the home team advantage is where that comes from. I really do think these teams are super evenly matched. And really, spoiler alert, but I think this is going to be a MAC victory.
Okay. I mean, it would certainly qualify as a big win over a name brand opponent. I wouldn't call them Power 4. Obviously, I think the rest of the country, not statistically, but just label wise, agrees UConn is considered part of the group of 5 for football purposes. But it's a name everybody knows, the UConn Huskies, in part due to their basketball. But it's a quality win over a name brand program. But let's just kind of dive into these Huskies a little bit. I mean, they're 2-2 coming into this season, and what I've kind of taken away from them is we've seen them play really, really great, really, really great, not great, but they played really, really great, and then they've played pretty anemically, and I think that all has to do with the kind of the quality of opponents they've played. They've lost at Maryland 50-7. They beat Merrimack 63-17. They lost a close one at Duke, 26-21, and then they blew out Florida Atlantic at home 48-14. For me, the biggest takeaway kind of when looking at all of this, This is a UConn team that loves to run the ball. In fact, they're doing it to the tune of 240 rushing yards plus per game, which is good for top 15 in the country. This, I think, is by and large the strength of this UConn team.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the other side of the ball, we have the Buffalo Bulls doing similar things. A 3-1 team this time had a great game to open the season against Lafayette. A big loss to Mizzou. We have these big losses to big opponents. A commanding victory over UMass, and then that overtime thriller against Northern Illinois last week. Victory
Top
there,
25 Northern Illinois.
Victory there, 23 to 20. Yeah, that's interesting. The Buffalo Bulls are 1-1 against top 25 opponents this year, which is a statistic we don't see very often in the MAC, where we have schools. I think fairly frequently we have MAC teams going up against top 25 opponents multiple times in the year, but not so frequently do we have victories against them. So that's interesting and kind of a product of Northern Illinois' success so far this year. But I think with Buffalo, the story is on the other side of the ball. Instead of the offense of the Huskies, we're talking about the defense of the Bulls, only allowing 18.5 points per game, only allowing 323 yards per game, which sounds like a lot, but is not that many. When we look at the country as a whole, the big number here is going to be the 133 yards on the ground that they allow per game, compared to the Huskies putting up that 241 number that you mentioning earlier. That's going to be interesting to see how these teams clash.
Well, I think when you talk about that, you've got to be able to contain. If you're Buffalo, you've got to be able to contain. You've got to know who's in the backfield. Part of what's special about this Huskies rush attack is you got four guys who all have over 150 yards on the season already. And I mean, again, headlined by Darrell Robinson, who has just been absolutely stellar. He's got almost 300 yards on 35 carries. I mean, he is just absolutely torching teams. He's got 3 touchdowns on the ground. You've got Mel Brown, another running back out of that room. And then you've got Cam Edwards, who both have also combined for over 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, this is a really, really deep backfield for UConn. But just when you thought that was it, no, you got to worry about quarterback Nick Evers. He has 34 yards and 151 or 34 carries on and 151 yards. This is a very dangerous backfield, and I think that's why UConn likes Nick Evers. They've got Joe Fagnano, who has been doing excellent at quarterback. He has 510 yards. He's got 7 touchdowns, 1 interception on the year. He has been leading this team. He was the projected starter coming into the year. But Nick Evers has looked excellent, and it looks like they use him for a lot of kind of wildcat or kind of rushing attack plays. But it works out because Nick can also throw the ball. In fact, he's got 300 passing yards as well, and he's got 2 touchdowns. He's just as capable as a quarterback as he is as a kind of a wildcat runner. And I think that's what Buffalo has to prepare against. You've got to prepare against 2 quarterbacks who can throw, and then 4 guys who can effectively run the ball and do it better than most teams in the country.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it earlier that this UConn Huskies rushing attack is formidable, and certainly you mentioned these 4 guys, kind of a 4-headed monster for the Huskies in the backfield. It can be tough to stop, but I think Buffalo has the personnel to do it, especially from the defensive leader Sean Dolak, who is leading the country in tackles. Also leads the MAC and the ranks 4th in the nation in tackles for loss, which is averaging 9.5 tackles for loss per game. Red Murdoch also 2nd in the MAC in tackles for loss. So 2 linebackers leading the way for the Bulls. Both guys great at stopping the run, and both guys I think are going to be prepared to really come against these Husky rushers. This is a Buffalo Bulls defense who stepped up against a hardy Northern Illinois attack last week, force overtime, and then stand tough throughout the game. And we watched the Bulls come away with that victory. Same thing happened against UMass and even against the Lafayette to start the year. This Bulls defense was hardy, only allowing a field goal by UMass and allowing 13 points by Lafayette. These are it's a stout defense led by these two linebackers, and I think the Bulls are going to be ready for the UConn rushing attack. I really expect this game to come down to other aspects. I don't think this is going to be the strength versus strength we hope it's going to be, unfortunately. I think what's going to happen is we're going to see these two squads play to mostly a stalemate. And what's going to happen is, can the Bulls adjust to the Huskies, their adjustments go into the air, I think is what's going to happen. We're going to see the Huskies start their passing attack, and it's going to be up to this Buffalo Bulls team. And again, these two linebackers, can they put pressure on a quarterback who loves to escape the pocket when it's necessary?
So I think talking about defenses here, you've got UConn, who held Duke to its second lowest point total of the season. They actually have looked really impressive. In fact, they combined with Elon and Northwestern held Duke to under 27 points in each of those contests. And I think what's fascinating about this is that it tells you just how good this UConn defense is. Duke is 4-0 right now. And I think that's something worth looking at. And UConn was a score away from pulling off this victory, a 26-21 loss at Duke. This defense has a lot of great players, and I've just got this list right here. They've got Jordan Wright, Jaden McDonald, Damont Gordine. Like, these guys have all been absolutely instrumental. I mean, two of these guys. And this is at every level. This isn't just on the defensive line. This isn't just at linebackers. These are guys who are pacing this team. They've all got double-digit tackles. Several have at least one sack. They've got tackles for losses. They've got at least 5 pass deflections amongst them. There's one forced fumble with them. I mean, this is a team who has guys who can swarm to the ball. Jaden McDonald actually has a pick already. I'm not too worried about this. In fact, this team actually has 3 picks on the season, and they've looked really good on the defensive side of the ball. And similar to Buffalo, yeah, I mean, they've played some tough competition, but I don't think that I'm too worried about this UConn defense. If I'm a UConn fan, in fact, I'm pretty excited about it, especially when I look at it compared to the Buffalo offense.
Well, you talk about that Buffalo offense. I think you got to be worried about the rushing attack from Buffalo. Pete Lembo has this squad coming out and really trying things in these first 4 games. As they start to settle in, I think we're going to see this running back by committee approach turn more towards a one lead back, and we'll see who that's going to be. So far, the Bulls have leaned on Jaquez Barksdale as their starting running back. He's a senior from Topeka, Kansas, a big guy, standing 6 foot tall, 230 pounds. And he's done a great job so far. But they've also got a couple of younger guys. AJ Henderson has contributed time. He's a back much in the same style as Barksdale, but also a young redshirt freshman, Lamar Sperling, out of Akron, Ohio. I got to shout out the Akron guys. But Lamar Sperling went to my rival high school, Archbishop Hoban, and did a great job there, leading the rushing attack for the Hoban Knights to a state championship. And I think it's just a matter of time before he really gets his shot. He's had 86 yards this year. He had 86 yards against UMass, and that was a big win for the Bulls there. And I expect to see one of these guys really stand head and shoulders above the others. I suspect, I kind of cross my fingers and hope that it's going to be Sperling, but it could be any of these 3 guys. And I think that's going to be the question for this Buffalo Bulls offense. Passing wise, they're okay. That's the honest truth here. They're only putting up 135 passing yards per game, which is not very good when it comes to a passing attack in college football. Rushing yards per game, they're putting up 132, which is also not great, but it is better than the passing yards. not in terms of yardage, but in terms of what we expect out of passing and rushing attacks. I do think the Bulls have this in terms of offense. I mentioned Pete Lembo when we started talking about this, but it's his first year at Buffalo, and the program's looking great under him. 3-1 for a first-year head coach is a great start to the season. But we still have the growing pains that we expect under any first-year coach. And I think coming into this week, we're going to see this team mature, especially after that big overtime win over top 25 Northern Illinois.
Well, I feel like that's kind of the curse of the Mid-American Conference is there's always that big win, that signature win on a season, and then it kind of feels like teams fall flat against their next opponent. We just saw it with Northern Illinois, signature win over Notre Dame, fell flat against a very upstart Buffalo team. Toledo blew out Mississippi State and had a rough second half, and that Western Kentucky game ended up falling. Bowling Green has looked consistently good. They've just fallen a little bit short. But I feel like that's sometimes the tale of the Mid-American Conference, especially this year. You get those big wins, you got to avoid the hangover. And I think to your point, Buffalo, they're not doing great on the offensive side of the ball, but they do have a great backfield. They do have a great quarterback. It's just kind of figuring out and working out some of those kinks. I do want to say that UConn, their weakness defensively is the passing game. They've given up 222 yards a game, and that's going to be an area that if Buffalo is smart, they will try to exploit that because UConn's been very good on the run defense rather, and they've held opponents to less than 170 rushing yards a contest. And I think for me, that's going to be the big one. They're letting teams score less than 27 points a game. And that's including their games with Duke. That's including these big time games against big time programs. To me, I think that's going to be the kind of the tale is can Buffalo establish enough of a run game that it opens up the passing game, or can UConn completely take away the ground game and let this be a one-dimensional offense and they know how to play to that strength?
Well, I think so far this year, Buffalo has not really relied on its passing game very much. But CJ Ogbonna looks great behind center. And Victor Snow receiving the ball there, leading the team in receiving yards as well as in receptions. Both of those guys, they have a connection, and it's only going to grow stronger as the season goes on. It's an interesting question whether the Bulls' passing game can rise to the occasion. This is kind of an interesting matchup here. UConn holds the overall record in the series against the Bulls. But the last game these two teams played was back in 2013 at UB Stadium. And the Bulls walked out the victors 41-12, a commanding victory over UConn. Now that is over a decade ago. So I don't know how much it has an effect on this meeting. But this will be the 14th meeting between the Bulls and the Huskies. And interesting that I think there are 3 Huskies in college football, and the Bulls play 2 of them in back-to-back weeks. Just a interesting fun fact there.
Was that one of those Khalil Mack teams?
That's 2013. That's interesting. I don't know if that's Khalil Mack or not. Why don't I look that up? Do you have anything else to say about the UConn Huskies?
While you're looking it up, I'm going to take time to tell you guys to make sure you're downloading the Varsity Network app. It's for free in the Apple Store, the Google Play Store, wherever you can download a mobile app. It's for free, and it's available now. The Varsity Network app presented by Learfield. You can listen to hundreds of live audio broadcasts from your favorite sports all across the college sports landscape. You want to listen to this weekend's college football game? You can download that. You can listen to that on the Varsity Network app. You want to listen to some college basketball? You want to listen to your favorite podcast? You can do all of that on the Varsity Network app. You can listen to, again, hundreds of broadcasts from across the country. You can listen to podcasts such as this one, as well as many others, including the Sickos Committee, the Group of Five guys, many other great podcasts, as well as school-specific podcasts. And I think that's very, very important. A lot of these schools produce their own podcasts. You've got the Ball State podcast as well, run by Mick Tidrow, who does a fantastic job. That is available on this Varsity Network app. They've got I believe it's called Ohio Paw Prints. That is also available on this app. I mean, it's just incredible. Once you get in there, you sign up, you download, you sign up for free on this app. You can save your favorite schools. You can save your favorite podcast and listen to them on demand wherever you go. You could be out in the middle of the desert in Arizona. You can be listening to your favorite podcast. You could be listening to me tell you why UConn's going to win this weekend's football game. Make sure you guys download the Varsity Network app. It's for free, like I said, on the Apple Store, on the Google Play Store. Check it out today. Definitely worth having. If you are a sports fanatic like myself and like Graham, download that app today.
Yeah, great app. And there are plenty of Mac people on that app who could have told you right away without looking it up that 2013 was Khalil Mack's best season at Buffalo. And so he was, in fact, a part of that Buffalo squad that held the UConn Huskies to just 12 back in 2013. So yeah, that was a good call out, Alex. That's a Khalil Mack team. Now we're going to talk about, in years to come, this will be a Sean Dolak team, and the way he took over and led Buffalo to victory over UConn this time.
All right, let's get that score prediction, Graham. So you have very, very clearly stated you think the Mac comes away with a victory on this one. What's that score prediction?
Well, I think the Bulls go into UConn. They head to East Hartford, Connecticut, and Pratt & Whitney Stadium, and they come out with a victory. This one is going to be a lower scoring game. We're going to look at, let's say, Buffalo Bulls 23 and UConn held to just 13.
Wow. Okay. I love the confidence. I think UConn, this is a home game. They're 2-0 at home, looking to extend that to 3-0. I think their rushing defense is going to be just enough to slow down the Buffalo offense, and I think their rushing attack is going to be dominant at home with that four-headed monster that they have. But I do think that this is going to be a close one. I'm going to go ahead and give it to UConn, however, and I'm going to go 28-24.
28-24, close ball game. We'll see who's right next week. And when it's me, I think everybody can talk about the fact that I know ball and you don't.
Well, that's what they say. I think you said that something similar after week one, and we saw how that one worked out.
I don't know what we said after week one. The point is that true athletes, the great ones, have a short memory, and my memory is the shortest.
It's like a goldfish. Let's move on to the conference slate real quick. Let's run down this list. Toledo is on bye this week, so no game for our beloved Rockets, but we've got Northern Illinois taking on NC State over at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh, North Carolina at noon on the CW. The line is NC State by 6.5. Who gets it done? Northern Illinois? Is it the Wolfpack or is it the Huskies?
The Wolfpack versus the Huskies. This is a dog matchup.
Dog fight.
This is that's fun. Normally I would go Huskies here because I think they bounce back after that tough overtime loss. I think they had a little bit of a hangover despite the bye week following Notre Dame. And I think they bounce back. I think they're ready to play it hard. This one is at NC State in North Carolina, so the traveling could be hard. Northern Illinois, but you know what? Let's go Huskies here. The Huskies are going to win this one. They're going to come out victorious, reclaim some of that glory from taking down Notre Dame when they take down NC State this weekend.
It's calling for a Husky boneyard victory for the second time this year. Moving on, we got Ball State at James Madison University, 1:30 over on ESPN Plus. JMU minus 20. JMU had a dominant win over North Carolina last week, 70-50, which is just incredible to think about.
JMU looks so good this year. I mean, a team that a lot of folks were predicting to be good this year, and they look even better than those predictions. JMU walks away with this one. That's a home victory over the Ball State Cardinals. Yeah, I don't have anything more to say about that. JMU looks good, and I think they're going to continue to look good against Ball State.
The UMass season preview tour of the Mid-American Conference continues as they travel down to Oxford, Ohio at Yager Stadium to take on the Miami Redhawks, who are they're looking for their first win of the season, which is kind of hard to believe. That's a 3:30 game over on the CBS Sports Network. It is, however, on ESPN Plus. It is, however, Miami, Ohio, minus 17.5. So seems like they're pretty confident that Miami's going to walk away with this one.
You know, it's funny. We've been making these predictions all year long that Miami is going to be the best team in the MAC this year. That are they going to repeat as MAC champs? Are they going to do this? This Miami squad has looked flat all year, especially on offense. We expected the Miami defense to be good, and it's been okay. But the Miami offense has looked awfully flat. UMass hasn't really impressed. This is a team. This is a game between teams who have not been very impressive this year. I do think Miami finds their first victory at home here. But this is going to be a closer one than the spread says. Miami does not cover the spread, but this is certainly a Miami victory.
Moving on, we've got San Diego State at Central Michigan. 3:30 kickoff on the CBS Sports Network. Central Michigan minus 2.5 at home. They're at Kelly Shorts in Mount Pleasant.
Gosh, flip a coin for this one, guys. This is going to be a close one too. Central Michigan, another team who has looked exactly like we thought they were going to look this year. I don't know that anyone predicted for them to be at the top of the MAC, and they're not. They're right in the middle, which is where we thought they were going to be. San Diego State is a team who looks like San Diego State. So two teams who are very evenly matched. We'll go Chippewas at home, but I'm not super confident in this pick.
We've got, moving on, a rematch of an early 2000s Mid-American Conference Championship, Western Michigan versus Marshall, down there at Joan C. Edwards Stadium in Huntington, West Virginia. This is at 3:30 on ESPN+. The line is Marshall minus 3.5.
These got to be two teams who are known for churning out stud NFL receivers. And this is a matchup here that's an interesting one. This is a toss-up for me. We're going to say Marshall takes this one.
Former MAC Marshall gets a win over, a current MAC school. We've got Akron taking on the Bobcats of Ohio. 3:30 over on ESPN+ down at Peden Stadium. The Bobcats will look to once again defend the Frank. Bobcats minus 12.5 at home.
Ohio looks like a way better team this year than the Akron Zips do. I love Akron. I'm living in Akron right now, and for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Zips in an upset victory.
Got to do that to me, don't you? We got moving on. We got Eastern Michigan taking on Kent State. A lot of these schools are getting conference play a couple of these schools getting conference play started this week. Taking on Kent State at 3:30 over on ESPN+ down at Dick Stadium. EMU minus 14 dead on.
EMU is a dark horse to win the MAC this year. It's a team who's kind of been on the up and up for the last few seasons. They look like they're finally maybe breaking through to that upper tier of the conference. EMU walks away with this one easy. EMU over the Flashes.
Then last but certainly not least, we've got 1 and 2 Bowling Green hosting Old Dominion at 5 o'clock on ESPN+. It is BG by 9.5. Let's hear your take.
Falcons all the way. I don't know that I need to go on. Bowling Green has looked maybe the best team in the MAC this year, despite not having the signature wins of a Northern Illinois or a Toledo. Bowling Green has played tough opponents, very tough, and despite not coming out victorious in those games, I think Bowling Green is one of the top teams in the MAC, and they walk away with this one easy.
Awesome. Well, you guys heard it here first. When Graham goes 10-0, 8-0 on those picks, you guys heard it here first. So make sure you guys are checking out. Don't bet on these off of his gut. I love Graham, but just appreciate it when he does go undefeated this week. Graham, do you have anything else before we sign this thing off?
I don't drive like Alex. I don't know. That's the car talk sign off. I've always wanted to sign off that way.
Well, I'll let you have that one. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Great week of MAC play coming up this week. A lot of opportunities for each of these schools. Potential upsets on the horizon, starting with Buffalo, UConn, but of course, many opportunities here for this league to kind of jump back into the national spotlight. So, looking forward to a great weekend of college football. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next week.